In the summer of 1876, the United States military marched onto the northern plains with a clear directive: avenge George Armstrong Custer. But 10 weeks later, those same soldiers were huddled in the freezing Dakota mud, slitting the throats of their own cavalry horses just to have something to eat. How did one of the most well-supplied, industrialized armies on the continent degrade into a starving, shivering column, desperate for anything to boil in a cooking pot? Welcome back to Crazy Horse Chronicles, where we examine the hard evidence behind the frontier's most enduring legends. A quick note before we begin. We use AI tools to help structure our historical research. This episode also contains descriptions of warfare, starvation, and quotes using historical language. Today, we are conducting a forensic investigation into a military disaster. We are looking at exactly what happens when political demands from Washington completely override the logistical realities of the frontier. Following the stunning defeat at the Little Bighorn in late June, the U.S. Army's campaign ground to a halt. General Alfred Terry stayed behind to bury the dead, while General George Crook withdrew his battered columns south to a base camp at Goose Creek to lick his wounds. Back east, the news of Custer's death provoked intense national humiliation. The public demanded immediate, overwhelming retaliation, and that pressure traveled straight up the chain of command. General Philip Sheridan, commanding the military division, refused to let the campaign pause for the winter. He issued strict orders to Crook to take on reinforcements and march back into the field immediately. But the military faced a massive geographic problem. The enormous coalition of Lakota and Cheyenne warriors that had defeated Custer didn't stay in one place. They had already broken camp, splintering into smaller bands and dispersing into the vast expanse of the Powder River country. Crook was ordered to resume the offensive without any clear intelligence on where these bands had gone. His new mission was driven by a political need for vengeance rather than tactical intelligence, setting his men up for a blind and desperate pursuit. On August 10, 1876, Crook's forces finally linked up with General Terry's command near the Rosebud River. The High Command assumed that combining these two armies would create an unstoppable force. Instead, they created a fatal logistical flaw. This animated map shows the problem directly. They merged two massive, heavy columns into one giant block, attempting to chase down tiny, scattered bands of a highly mobile enemy. With zero reliable intelligence and vast, unmapped distances ahead of them, this giant column was essentially marching blind through the wilderness. Because the Lakota and Cheyenne traveled light and knew the terrain, they could easily outmaneuver this enormous plotting force, choosing exactly when and where to engage, or more often, when to simply disappear. This brings up a question for you all. Could any commander have successfully supplied a force of this size in this terrain, or was logistical failure built into the plan from the very start? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. By joining forces, the Army didn't increase its lethality. It merely added thousands of additional mouths to feed, accelerating a logistical collapse that was already underway. The environment quickly turned against them. The late summer weather broke, bringing prolonged, freezing rain that turned the prairie into impassable mud as temperatures plummeted. The Army's rigid tactical doctrine began to tear apart. Supply lines failed entirely. Exhausted men fell out of the ranks, and the troops were forced to abandon their heavy, cumbersome wooden wagons on the muddy trail. Contrast this rigid, braking military machine with their targets. The native bands they were chasing were highly mobile family units, including elders and children, making highly successful, independent decisions about their own survival and movement. By early September, the physical toll on the soldiers was severe. The standard rations of hard bread, salt pork, and coffee were completely gone. The men were marching on bleeding feet and swollen legs, and scurvy began to spread through the ranks. The crisis reached its apex in what became known as the Horsemeat March. With no food left, the soldiers made the grim decision to begin shooting and butchering their own exhausted cavalry horses to survive. The cavalry horse was the ultimate symbol of military transport and pride. Reducing those prized animals to a desperate meal proved the total collapse of the industrialized army's capabilities on the plains. General Crook realized his command was facing total starvation. He had to make a drastic decision, splitting his force in a desperate bid to save it. He detached Captain Anson Mills,
ordering him to take roughly 150 of the strongest remaining men and horses and ride ahead of the main column. Mills' mission was no longer about hunting the enemy. He was ordered to ride south to the illegal mining camps at Deadwood to literally buy emergency groceries for the starving army. The mighty U.S. military expedition had completely lost its strategic objective. Vengeance was entirely forgotten. Basic survival had replaced it as their only goal. Captain Mills and his advance force pushed through the rain, desperately scanning the bleak horizon for the smoke of the Deadwood mining camps. But they didn't find the civilian food they were looking for. Instead, on the morning of September 9th, they stumbled directly into the village of Lakota leader American Horse at Slim Buttes. The United States possessed railroads, spanned by telegraphs, and massive factories. Yet here in the Dakota mud, their premier fighting force had been reduced to a primitive state, fighting a battle they didn't plan, just to capture the food inside their enemies' teepees. So we are left to ask, should the Horsemeat March be remembered as an incredible feat of human endurance? Or is it proof that when political urgency overrides basic geography, disaster is inevitable? If you want to explore more of these historical realities, hit the subscribe button and ring the bell. And drop a comment below. Do you view Crook's march as a survival triumph or a strategic failure built in from the start? Thanks for watching.